This one is about someone who was 13 visiting Gettysburg. And Gettysburg is probably, as we all know, pretty haunted, I would think, with soldiers. So here we go. I was with my mom, my two younger brothers, and my uncle. We were leaving the park as it was closing time. For the life of me, I cannot remember what part of the battlefield we were at. I just remember it being so dark and having to make this sharpish turn. As we were making the turn, I see 3 people ahead of us in high beams. Then my mom asks us if we all saw them. We all collectively said yes. It was 2 men in Union uniforms and a woman with her sleeves scrunched up to her elbows and her hair was up. They all had a dead expression. I can't explain it in any other way. But at first we think they might need help. So I get out with my mom with flashlights. We look around, shining them everywhere. There's no evidence of anyone ever being there. The ground was dirt, so you'd think we would see footprints, but the only footprints were ours, walking up to where we saw them. They were just gone. After we get back into the van, my mom realized that they didn't even try to shield their eyes as one would do from sudden bright light of the high beams. This is just an experience that I think about a lot. I think you saw something, friend. Spooky, spooky, spooky. Let's move on. This is another shorter one. I'm an atheist. I have never believed in anything supernatural or the spirit world, but this one weird thing happened to me. It was the early 2000s. I was 21. My granddad was in the hospital with bone marrow cancer. He didn't have long. In fact, that day we'd been told to visit and say our goodbyes. It was October, so the evenings were getting darker, and it was only about 7 p.m. when I got home. I rolled a joint, put on Fast and the Furious 2 in the DVD player, opened my bedroom window and lit it. The entire house went dark, like a power cut. TV off, lights off, everything. I noticed as I looked out to the street that it was only our house. Dad checks the fuse box, and nothing had tripped it out. It was only off for 2 minutes, and then everything comes back on. The exact moment the phone rings. It's Nan. Granddad's died. He was an electrician. I think that's kind of neat, actually. It's like he's saying, I made it, guys. I'm okay, I made it. Next. This happened the night before my wedding, about a month ago. The wedding venue we chose allowed us, the wedding party, to stay in a lodge that was on the grounds for a few days. The venue was tucked back in the woods in the middle of Amish country, rural Midwest. The night before the wedding, I experienced what I thought was sleep paralysis. I was just dozing off when I thought I felt my fiancé get into the bed next to me, so I rolled over to face him and opened my eyes. It wasn't my fiancé. It was a man with a swollen jaw and a bent face. He didn't have any facial features other than shadowy smears where the eyes might have been. He was staring down at me, staring like he was studying me, like he was curious about me. I tried to get up, but I couldn't move. I didn't try to scream. I'm not sure why. Then he was gone. Up until tonight, I thought it was sleep paralysis, but it just hit me. I rolled over and looked up at him. It wasn't until I tried to leave that I wasn't able to move. That's scary. That's really scary. I think I'd think about that a long time after. Might even ruin the wedding. I don't know. That's spooky. Moving on. Okay, this one is a glitch. Glitch in the Matrix. Just a bit of background. No serious mental health problems other than some mild anxiety and depression. I take 25 mg of Zoloft, so I don't think I'm tripping or hallucinating. This morning, I woke up for work, left a little earlier than usual because I woke up before my alarm, filled my water bottle, grabbed my access card, and got in my car and drove off. My commute is the same every day. 40 minutes. It's mostly interstate. There's always traffic. While my car is warming up, I pick out an album to listen to for the drive there. I usually make it about 3/4 of the way through the album before I get to work. Every day is a new album. So I did all that. I drove to work. I remember being cut off. I remember being in a standstill traffic toward my exit. I remember the album I listened to. I even remember responding to a text using Siri. I remember seeing a type of car I've never seen before in the US. I remember thinking to myself, I'm glad it's not as hot today. I definitely drove. So, I get to work, pull into the same parking space I take every day, step out of my car, and lo and behold, I'm still in front of my apartment building. 40 minutes later, almost done with the album I put on. WTF was I doing? Where did I go? That is Twilight Zone. That's some Twilight Zone stuff right there. Oh my goodness. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. Glitch. It's such a glitch. Matrix glitch. That is a glitch. That's glitchy. Okay. Next, I thought it would be fun to tell you the true story of Annabelle. Yeah, this scary, scary doll that Hollywood took and made a movie. A very successful movie. A very scary movie. So, there is a doll named Annabelle. A real one. And this is the deal with that. The doll in the movie we all know, Annabelle, is frightening looking and a porcelain doll in a child's image with long hair. But the real Annabelle, the one in Warren's museum, is a plain looking classic Raggedy Ann doll with red yarn for hair. But the Raggedy Ann at Warren's museum is no ordinary doll. According to the Warrens, it is inhabited by an inhuman spirit, and there is a warning on the glass case not to touch. One museum goer who ignored the warnings and taunted the doll died in a motorcycle accident shortly after being told to leave the museum. The movie that we saw is a prequel to The Conjuring, based on the Warrens' real-life case involving the doll. Curators believe the doll has the power to kill, according to a film on the Annabelle case. Noting the case of the motorcyclist who died after leaving the museum, Spira said, "Never take these things lightly, thinking it's a joke." According to a clip showed, the real-life Annabelle story began in 1970, when a 28-year-old nurse received a Raggedy Ann doll as a birthday gift from her mom. She put the rag doll on her bed and began to notice it changing positions. A leg would be crossed, or the doll would be lying on its side. Then the girl and her roommate began to find parchment paper on the floor with written messages, such as, "Help me, help us." They had no parchment paper in the house. The doll began appearing in different rooms, and at one point appeared to be leaking blood. Then one day, a male friend who was taking a nap and woke up with the doll staring at him as he felt like he was being strangled. There were deep scratch wounds on his upper body. The girls at first thought maybe an intruder was moving the doll around and leaving notes. When they ruled that out, according to the Occult Museum website, quote, "Not knowing where to turn, they contacted a medium, and a seance was held. The girls were introduced to the spirit of Annabelle Higgins, said to be a young girl that resided on the property before the apartments were built and died there at age 7. According to the website, the spirit related to the medium that she felt comfort with the 2 roommates in the apartment and, quote, wanted to stay with them and be loved. The roommates gave Annabelle permission to inhabit the doll, but things got worse. The Warrens took an interest in the case and contacted the women. They came to the immediate conclusion that the doll itself was not in fact possessed, but manipulated by an inhuman presence. According to the Warrens' website, which goes on to say, quote, "Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll. It was looking to possess a human host." Spira said the Warrens took the doll, and Ed Warren told his wife that they should avoid the highway because it was going to be a rough ride home. He was right. At some point, he had to sprinkle the Annabelle doll with holy water to calm it down. Oh my goodness, that's freaky. I just don't love freaky dolls. I don't love them. Next, we're going to talk about some true alien abductions that happened. And a trigger warning for this. Some of it is a bit graphic. Certainly not for kids. But it's incredibly interesting. Some of these encounters that people have had. And I decided to include it. If you're not into that, go ahead and skip ahead. Okay. Many alien abductions are fairly harmless and could even be construed as helpful. However, there are stories of alien abductions that are way darker and can only be described as hostile. The discussion of hostile alien encounters is hushed, simply because of how disturbing it can be. One of the most famous examples of what appears to be a hostile abduction is and I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong, is the Guaraparenga Reservoir incident, which happened in 1988. Brazilian officials found the body of a man who had died days earlier, and it was unlike anything they had ever seen before. He was entirely drained of blood, missing organs, and cut up with highly advanced surgical tools. In other words, his body matched the carcasses associated with cattle mutilation. The phenomenon has been long linked to UFO abduction, which is why people believe that aliens may have kidnapped and mutilated this anonymous man. Carol and Helen Thomas were a mother-daughter duo who were walking through the alleyway as they were headed home from the store, when they saw a bright light in the alleyway. The light came with a loud buzzing noise, which they soon noticed was from a flying saucer. They didn't remember anything else shortly after that. When they awoke, the two women noticed that Carol's jacket was soaking wet, and that they had puncture marks on their stomachs. From then on, the nightmares ensued. They remembered having aliens remove egg cells through their bellies using syringes. In their dreams, everything was soaking wet. One of the aliens really loved Carol's jacket, and it would rub it against its face, which was what made it very wet. Many of the stories of alien abduction involve not one, but multiple visits over the course of a human's life. Such was the case with Tracy Jones, who first noticed something was awry when she would wake up and notice items around her home moved around. The items that were shifted around often were small, inconsequential things. At times, there would be bandages that were wrapped around her fingers or chest that would disappear overnight. Around her home, electronics would fail without explanation, and once in a while, Tracy and whoever lived with her at the time would wake up to see figures around the bed. She believed she was haunted until she started having recurring dreams of alien abductions. Tracy would dream of aliens harvesting egg cells, her children being abducted with her, and would also have large wounds healed overnight. Nobody believed her until she had serious injury that required heavy bandaging. Like the other wounds, it healed overnight, leaving barely any scar. It appears that stories of alien abductions involving human mutilation are a lot more common than we think. One of the earliest cases happened in 1956 on Holloman Air Force Base. Sergeant Jonathan Lovett and Major William Cunningham were walking through the desert region of the AFB, collecting shrapnel from a recent weapons test. At one point, Lovett went behind the dune to find more shrapnel. Cunningham then heard Lovett shriek in terror and quickly went to see what his colleague was screaming about. What Cunningham saw made him scream as well. The two men saw a hovering silver disc with a metal rope extending from it. The rope then grabbed Lovett and pulled him into the craft. Whether paralyzed by fear or some other means, Cunningham was unable to move and could only watch as a screaming Lovett was dragged onto the ship above. When Cunningham snapped out of the trance, the ship had already flew away. He reported his findings to his higher-ups, who set out on a massive manhunt throughout the base. Mission Control picked up a fast reading on its radar, but the item itself was unidentified. No trace of Lovett could be found for 3 days, until his body was discovered. Lovett showed no signs of trauma, but was drained of every single drop of blood in his body. His eyes were missing, and his anus and genitalia were removed with expert precision, almost as if it was, quote, a plug. Most disturbingly, every animal that tried to eat part of him was discovered dead within feet of his corpse. I mean, that's not only absolutely disturbing and heartbreaking and tragic and absolutely horrific for his family, but I'd never heard of this until now, and I apologize if that was more graphic than you would liked, but what's true is what's true, and these are real experiences. So, okay, I think I'll end today with something a little bit lighter. Before making an offer on our house, my husband and I went for a viewing with our 3-year-old daughter, whom we'd left with a babysitter the first time we saw the house. As we walked in, I told her she could choose a bedroom. She said, "I want the dinosaur room," and ran upstairs. Okay, 3-year-olds say random stuff. And a moment later, she called out, "Here it is!" And sure enough, the closet of her bedroom was covered with the dinosaur stickers. My husband, the realtor, and I were all freaked out. The kid acted like she knew the stickers were there, but none of us remembered seeing them before, and we certainly hadn't talked about them. The house was vacant and immaculately clean. It was an estate sale, but we left the stickers up. I think that's sort of neat. Maybe that little 3-year-old has visions